In today's world, we only watch the endings, a flashy success story or the brutal collapse. But we don't hear about the full journey that it took to get there. The late nights, tough calls, moments of doubt. On In Between Sips, we dive deep into the raw, unfiltered stories of what these business owners and leaders have been through and who they became along the way. So pull up a chair, pour a cup, and join us. We're just getting started. Because we all know the best conversations happen in between sips. Cheers, John.
Hey, cheers.
Thanks for coming on. A little herbal tea action here. Now, I know you as Uncle John, soothsayer, wise mentor, business leader, aficionado, extraordinaire behind the hot mic.
And I know you as the guy that helped me 10x my business.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Let's do another cheers, John.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on. I know it's been fun lately with Century 21 Northwest. You're the CEO, right?
I am. It's a family of companies. The real estate side is one of the things we do. We've got residential agents, we've got commercial agents, we've got property management, and then we're vertically integrated. So we've got a repair and fix it company and a flip company, and
wow.
So we got a little something. If it has to do with real estate, we're involved in it.
Nice. And I know we also serve in Rotary. You can say that name as much as you want, and there won't be any happy fines for saying your company name.
I like what you said there, that we serve in Rotary, and that's really just kind of the theme. We serve the community, and we've been so blessed that we really when we bought our headquarters, it was way too much for what we needed, and I just felt like that was an opportunity that we could really engage in the community. And the entire facility converts to a church on Sundays. The warehouse facility, which is our training facility, converts to a Rotary meeting on Thursday once a week. It's used for weddings and funerals and community events, and it's just a real blessing. But this is the thing. When you do good like that, as we're all called to do, it all comes out. That's the great plan, and it's really fun to see that played out here on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah. Well, when you first took over as CEO for Century 21 Northwest at the old location, right? That had been long standing there, and when you came across this building, it doesn't look like it does now. Like, what walk me through what that process is like?
Yeah, well, finding the space is always a force multiplier for an organization, because it really becomes part of your identity. It becomes part of your ability to reach out. Yeah. And we knew that we had been throwing money in the trash can every month in the form of rent, and there became a place where it's like, we need to re-sign the lease. Yeah. We need a little bit more space. Yeah. And we'd really like to leverage the business into owning an asset at some point. Yeah. And so I just began kind of combing the streets around town, and one of those moments, the light changed, and I was stopped there at the light. And I looked over at a building that I'd probably driven past 1,000 times, and I saw a sign that was kicked over into the ground because the building had literally been on the market for that long.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, "Look at that big place! What is that?" Yeah. And so I pulled into the driveway. I made a quick left, pulled into the driveway, and I walked over to the sign, and it was literally covered in mud and dust. And I used my foot, and I scraped. Yes, this is true
story. It's like out of a movie.
I scraped off the dust from it, and there was a phone number. Yeah. And I called the number, and I said, "Hey, I'm standing out in front of this building. Is it still on the market?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Great, I'd love to do a tour." And he goes, "There's a rock by the front door. If you flip the rock over, there's a key. There's a key there. Just help yourself."
2-story building, hide a key?
2-story building, hide a key. So I went in, let myself in, and I was walking through this, it was really just a mess. It had been used, it had been vacant for several years. It had had squatters in it at one time. Before that, it was like for 15 or 20 years, it was an engineering deck for like cable guys. And they were all, you could tell they were all smokers, and had wallpaper that was, yellowed by the smoke. Yeah. And so I'm looking at this building, and I'm like, well, first of all, it's enormous. It's way too big for what we need. Yeah. but it also, geez, it's going to take so much work. But I walked into one part of the office. I remember looking up through missing drop ceiling tiles that it had a drop ceiling at about 7 feet, really claustrophobic. And I looked up through the ceiling tiles, and I was like, it went up into this great big cavernous space.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, we could make a huge difference in this building by removing some of that drop ceiling.
Yeah.
And long story short, I negotiated that building acquisition for 3 months. Everybody that I talked to said, you'll never buy it at the price that you are trying to buy it at.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a non-emotional transaction because I needed to be somewhere close to where we were already paying for rent.
Yep.
So it was just simple math. And I started below that, and I chipped away at it and finally, by grace, the seller got tired of me and agreed to sell it to me for what we needed. And what an amazing story too. We were able to fully renovate the building in about two months' time and move in, and it's just been an absolute game changer in every way for us.
Yeah. Yep. That's incredible. It's taking something, in Glendale. I'm, born and raised in Glendale, as you know, and being able to see something that had been there for a long standing and vacant and get turned into this massive hub to serve. And all your agents are here. You guys have 150 agents now, 120?
Yeah, we're pushing right at 200.
200 agents.
200 residential agents, a few on the commercial side.
And then residential property management, you guys are running, 500-600 properties?
Yeah, a little over 600 on the residential side, a couple dozen on the commercial side.
Commercial too, yeah. Yeah, man, what an amazing hub.
It's wonderful. And everybody knows that it's a kind of center point in town.
Yep.
We decorate it. We go over the top at Christmas time to make sure that it stands out as a landmark. We try to over decorate it for, 4th of July, and really just be that business in town that everybody knows and thinks about. And
we even had a camel here, right? You had the live nativity.
We did. We had.
I remember that. My daughters remember that.
We had 2 game-changing Christmas events here that I thought just really set the season apart, but also just kind of ingratiated us to the community. The first one was the one you're talking about. We did a live nativity, and we had camels here, we had sheep and the 3 wise men, and we just did it. It was kind of almost like a community play.
Yeah.
We had the warehouse space, but we wanted to celebrate Christmas in a big way.
Yep.
And so we brought all that in and then made it free to the community. I think we did 3 separate showings of it. Yeah. And I think we put in about 300 people per showing over the course of one weekend. And that's still being talked about. But I think the thing that we're most proud about that we did also over a Christmas time was our drive-through Christmas display.
Yeah.
And that was in an absolute difficult time. I had just lost a dear friend of mine for 25 years to COVID. And, it was right in the middle of that. And everyone in the world was telling us everything you couldn't do.
Yeah.
Right. But I've always been a big Christmas guy, and I wanted to come up with something that we could do, some way that we could share our faith, share our hope, which is really what Christmas is all about, just getting that hope out there to the community. And so, it was one of those team events. All the agents came together.
Yep.
We put together these vignettes that kind of symbolize all the great things of the commercialized portions of Christmas that everybody loves and can identify with. Snowmen and Santa Claus and carolers and all of those things, Christmas trees and presents. And then we had a light tunnel that you went through, and you came through on the other side, and we again did the live nativity. And so,
which you recruited my wife and I to do Joseph and Mary.
You guys were the best Joseph and Mary anyone's ever had.
That was the best night. Seeing all the cars come through, and man, there was like live animals next to us.
Cars.
It was
thousands
insane.
Of cars.
It's insane.
And it just proved how much a community needs business leaders to offer that. And especially during that time, the entire city needed some hope. They needed something to celebrate. And that's what they got. And they came out in droves. Do you remember that? We had cars parked 3 miles away. on the road trying to get in.
Trying to make a left into the
From
parking lot. Yeah.
half an hour before we opened it. I think we opened it
Yeah.
at 5:30. And
Yep.
and they were lined up at 5, and they didn't stop until we shut it down at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely extraordinary.
Well, I think those are things that you don't see on, the stat sheet, if you will, of like, hey, we grew a business, here's our metrics, right? But the community and serving, and like these are things that businesses need to lead in. Leaders like you need to lead in for the community. And, they don't always show up kind of on this stat sheet of things, but they make all the difference in the world. And, you always say, you taught me, business is relationships, right? Like, and at a time when people need a relationship most, I mean, that 3-mile line, you can say what you want about that time, but that 3-mile line was indicative of what was needed.
And that's the saddest thing, really. What I do with this organization is nothing new. This has been the way community businesses have been run. They sponsor baseball teams. They sponsor the Girl Scouts, right?
Yep.
This is the way communities were run for generations.
Yeah.
It's just at some point when the corporate dollars started pouring into small communities, and you went from having a local Ace Hardware that everybody knew the guy that ran it, and he bought pizza for the little Pop Warner football team after every game, right? To now you have these mega massive corporations, like a Home Depot, where it's a local guy that's the GM, but he really doesn't have say in how he engages with the community. And I think that corporations miss out by not letting their local people be more entrepreneurial and more engaging. And for sure, who misses out the most is the local community.
Yeah.
And so again, we didn't invent it.
Yeah.
We just went back to it. And I just encourage everybody that if you've got that opportunity to engage that way with your community, it will be so rewarding for you professionally and personally.
Yeah.
And like I said, there is a return on the investment. It comes back. Everybody knows us. Everybody thinks of us in the city.
Yep.
If they have real estate needs, because of the fact that we engage so heavily with them all year long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And prior to Century 21 CEO, like when you talk about these big corporations, these principles for you never changed, because even in your past experience when you were working for major companies, I mean, that's what you tried to bring in and instill, right?
That's exactly right. I've always tried to be me. Yeah. I don't know that today I would fit in at a big corporation. I can't think that way. I can't be like that anymore.
Yeah.
When the issue of the day is communicated to you from some human resources department 3,000 miles away, and this is how we need you to focus on business. I just can't live that way, right?
Yeah.
I need to understand the business metrics involved, the people, the relationships, and be able to capitalize on the opportunities. And I just don't think corporations are wired that way in their DNA.
Was it wired that way back in Budget?
So I got my start with Budget Rent-A-Car as a manager trainee right out of college. And in those days, first of all, many of them were franchise organizations.
Yeah.
And so they had a local executive that owned it and operated it. And that was certainly the case in Arizona. So we were a huge franchise. I think we had about 5,000 cars.
Yeah.
But we were owned by one guy that paid franchise rights, royalty rights back up to the mothership. And so we got to do whatever we wanted to do and just have fun with it. And as long as we were profitable, it really didn't matter. So that's kind of helped me get a start, other than the way I grew up on a farm. But that kind of helped me get my start in thinking like an entrepreneur and thinking about there's more to this than just the making money part. And if we engage all of that, the money comes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too long after that we put the company in a position to get acquired by other organizations, just like it works.
Yep.
And we were acquired, and we took that company public.
Yeah.
And then that new entity acquired the entire corporation.
Wow.
And so I got to see it firsthand. And I climbed through the ranks while all that was going on. But at some point, and it wasn't very long after all of those acquisitions took place, that I realized that we were now completely disconnected from who we originally said we were, who I wanted to be as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And we were again beholden to decision makers who had no understanding of our local market.
Yep.
They were operating thousands of miles away
Yeah.
and had no interest in who our people were
Yeah.
and what their needs were, or even our customers.
Yeah.
So I quickly needed to
Yeah.
find something new to do,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I did.
What was next then?
Yeah. So next for me was it was still in the car business, but it was kind of wild. We had gotten to the place with Budget Rent-A-Car where the new entity had overexpanded, and they had stripped out a lot of the cash, the operating cash that we were working on, and so now the new thing for them was, hey, you business operators, you need to look within your business market and see if there are non-core assets that we shouldn't be operating or that we can liquidate to provide more cash flow for operations and streamline things. And so for me, one of those operations where we had airport rental car facilities in the mountains of Colorado. I had been promoted and I was running a multi-state territory based in Colorado. And we had operations in Aspen and Vail. And it was really fun to go up there. And we had ski passes and really great connections all up there. But it was a difficult thing for us to operate.
Yeah.
And it was very, very seasonal. And so I had remembered a gentleman that was based in Beverly Hills, that was a Beverly Hills original Beverly Hill budget operator.
Yeah.
And he had this fabulous location right in the intersection of Santa Monica and Wilshire in the heart of Beverly Hills. And it was literally surrounded by all these high rises. And here's this guy that's got this little luxury rental car company. And from what I had always heard, the legend was that he literally minted money operating out of there. And so he was doing luxury cars. His peak business was in the summertime. And so I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, hey, Jerry, it's John Crow. I'm the general manager in Colorado. I've got these two operations in Aspen and Vail. I did a little research, and these operations peak on the opposite end of when you peak. So we're busy in the winter, you're busy in the summer. It's the same exact customers. They're all high-end customers that are wanting high-end product. And I think it would be a really great fit to your organization. Can I fly you out to see it? And so I did that on my own.
Yeah.
I was like 29 years old. And he comes out, and I had basically put together a deal to sell him these entities before I didn't even know I needed to talk to the attorney in corporate. I was just running rogue, doing what entrepreneurs do. And anyway, so we wound up putting together a deal with him to acquire those operations.
Yeah.
And what became really obvious in that was that he was a level of marketing genius that I had never seen.
Yeah.
He was unencumbered by any corporate politics, by any stratospheric thinking. Like, we have these departments that we have to go through and we have to clear everything.
It was all just get it done. What's the ROI?
What is the coolest thing we could do, and how would that affect our customers and the way people see us? Let's do that.
Yeah.
And so he was very nimble and very creative guy, and he had a really interesting way of getting his word out. And what was really fascinating about him was the rest of the industry thought of rental car, still do, by the way, as a commodity, which is there are lots of them everywhere. And so whoever has the cheapest price wins.
Yep.
He absolutely did not think about that at all. It was, in fact, you couldn't even get him to talk that way. He didn't even realize that the rest of the industry thought that way and that he was different. He intuitively said, no, I'm going to provide a really incredible product that's different than any other product that you can get.
Yeah.
And I'm going to provide an incredible service that goes with it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to charge based on what I need to make money.
Yeah.
To do that.
Huh.
And it was revolutionary for me to see that. Of course, I later saw that in many business models. Yeah. Like Starbucks is a perfect example. Smaller, different product, but who would have ever thought that kids and
Yeah.
grown-ups would walk into a
Yeah.
place and pay $7 for hot water,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mind-blowing, right? But this guy thought that way.
Wow.
And so but the other thing was that he is as brilliant as he was as a marketing person, he had literal no ability to operate anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just didn't have the skill set or the attention span or the attention to detail to run an organization. So it became pretty apparent that the two of us could do something
Good
together.
partnership.
And so we put together an equity deal for me to acquire part of the company and come run. And I run in the organization. I couldn't get away from the corporate world fast enough. So that's what I did.
Any moments that you're just like blown away at what you're involved in, like people you're helping, or just because that model, it flipped it on its head to such a luxury, right?
Ryan,
So
I'm a farm boy from Tolleson.
yeah.
Okay. I grew up driving tractors, going to school dirty,
Yeah.
right? Simple people. I remember the first time my dad took me to a fancy dinner because he wanted us to be able to experience cloth napkins. Okay.
Oh, wow.
We went to the Ramada Inn fish fry, Ryan. That was our level of, hey, this is a cut above, right? And so that's my background.
Yeah.
And I arrive in Beverly Hills, and about 50% of our clientele are the studio industry, all of the A-list celebrities, all of the athletes that fly into town.
Yep.
About 25% of our business was Saudi Arabian clientele.
Wow.
And it was this absolutely insane, non-ending supply of who is that? What are they doing? What just happened? Yeah, it was out of body experience after out of body experience the entire time I was out there.
Jeez.
Some of it not so great, right?
Yeah.
Like there's tremendous vanity in it, and the entire thing was based on vanity, and so there was lots of times where I just had to get away from it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I realized I couldn't make that my whole career, but I gave it a good try for 5 years. But yeah, the stories are unending. I remember one time. That I walked into our main store in Beverly Hills, and I'm standing there talking to one of the service or customer service reps, and I see her like have this paranoid look, like she's looking over my shoulder, like what is going on? And I'm thinking like there's a crash happening outside or something horrific. We're about to get robbed. And so I look over my shoulder, and there is a woman in a full-length mink coat. Full length, head to toe. It's summertime.
Yeah.
Right? Full length mink coat. She's fully naked underneath.
No.
And she has a parrot on her shoulder.
No.
Yeah.
What?
And so she comes in, and she's obviously distraught. She's her hair, lipstick going up like the Joker. She's hair's all a mess, right?
But there's a parrot on her shoulder?
There's a parrot on her shoulder. So we bring her in, we take her in the back office, and we're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And she gives us the story. She was married to a very, very prominent actor. If I told you the name, would, I can't tell you the name, but a very, very prominent A-list celebrity. And they were had just had a blowout fight, and they were going to become divorced. And she needed to get a car because she had just walked out with nothing but her mink coat and her parrot, right? And so
that's what was important to her.
You always ask yourself, like, if the fire comes, what will I run back in for? Right. That was what she did. Her mink coat and her parrot. So I get this guy that works for me. He is a car cleaner.
Yeah.
He's like $8 an hour or whatever guy that cleans cars for a living.
Yeah.
Super good guy. And I chose him because I trusted him.
Yeah.
He was just one of those guys that always delivered.
Yeah.
So I bring him in the office and I say, hey, can you take this lady home? She'll give you the directions back. We just need to get her home. Yeah. Because I'd calmed her down, and I'm like, no, you need to go back. You can't just rent a car from us. You don't even have any money. You're like, get yourself together. Let's get you back. Talk to your husband. Yeah. There's ways to do this. Gave her our card if there's anything we can do to help. Yeah. So the service agent puts her in the car, drives her home, and he comes back, and he's back in like, I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half. And she just lives, I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of right around the corner. So I'm like, where have you been? Like, how did it go? Like, I'm fascinated, right? Like,
now you got to know.
What's the rest of this story? And he says, oh, it went great. I go, well, what do you mean it went great? Like, you've been gone an hour and a half and it's like a 5-minute drive to take her home. And he says, no, what happened was I shared my faith with her on the way home and she kept wanting to know more and more and more. And so we finally prayed and she accepted the faith. And then she said that she was going to go back inside and have the same conversation with her husband. And so I said, do you want me to wait outside? And she said, no, I'll call you. And I gave her my number. But anyway, she left happy and I think everything's okay.
Oh my gosh. What just
happened?
The 180.
What just happened?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
holy cow.
And Ryan, I could sit here for the rest of today and all through the week and tell you stories that were like that.
Yeah.
That were just amazing opportunities to just dig into the reality of. I mean, here's a woman that comes from a family. They're fabulously wealthy.
Yeah.
They have access to everything that you can possibly get access to.
Yeah.
I mean, planes, whatever it is, whatever you want, you blink of an eye, you've got it. And they're broken.
Yeah.
And they're miserable. And they're empty. And then here's a guy that's working in Beverly Hills that probably lives probably literally 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Because that's how, far away you can afford to live. Has nothing, but he has everything.
Yeah.
And he's able to share that.
Yeah.
It's like David and Goliath somehow,
Next
but
level,
it's just next level.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
what do you do with that, right?
Yeah.
So that's just an example of some of the crazy things that have happened in business and some of the crazy things that will happen in everybody's life if you're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And then you have that background, then coming to Arizona. I mean, you're born and raised here.
Yeah.
But
so
coming back from a California job like that.
Yeah. Man. My wife refused to raise kids in California, which she refused in the most delicate way that you could possibly refuse. My wife's amazing.
She's a saint, right?
She's a saint. But she's just like, this is not the place for us to raise kids. Yeah. And so we worked on getting her reestablished here in town. And I was at a place where I couldn't, or at least I believed at the time that I couldn't leave that thing that I had started. I needed to put it in a safer place. Yeah. And we set her up here and I commuted back and forth for about 5 years. And then finally I was able to sell the company to one of our competitors or reposition it so that we could be acquired by one of our competitors, a merger. And I could come back and take a year to just figure out what I wanted to do next. And that's what I did. And in that downtime, I decided that I had seen the top of the mountain. Yeah. I had seen the wealthiest of the wealthy, the most powerful of the powerful.
The most parody of the parody.
The funniest of the most outrageous, right? And it was unimpressive. Yeah. It was vanity. Yep. It was literally all vanity. It was for nothing. And I wanted the next phase of my career to be different. Yeah. Where I was able to take some chips off the table, so I had a little bit of money to kind of figure out what could be next. Yeah. And at the time, I thought I wanted to do. I had gotten really into fitness. Yeah. I'm running 30 miles a day, and I'm doing all this stuff, and so I'm like, well, maybe I always listened to what people would say, which is find something you're passionate about and do that. Yeah. I'm like, okay, after all my life's experience, I don't buy that anymore. But at the time, that's what I was trying to do. Yeah. And what I mean by don't buy that anymore is I think you should be passionate at everything you do. Yeah. And make as many doors open up by being excellent in whatever is put before you and let things come to you. Yeah. I think that whole follow your passion thing is a really big excuse for lots of people to do nothing.
It's a huge
so that's all I mean.
It's a huge glass floor. If you think about it, I mean, it's like whatever you're strong in, right? That's what we heard. I heard a quote from Charlie Kirk is like, whatever your strengths are, like your passion will follow. Because like nobody's really passionate about things they suck at,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
so like,
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
really good at relationships, then wherever you're at, you're
Yeah.
gonna wind up. The cream rises. You're gonna
Yeah.
wind up in a position, and then doors are gonna open, and just
Yeah.
keep being awesome.
Yep.
And if you keep being awesome long enough, then you will find where
Yeah.
that place is that you're gonna be. But I just hate
Yeah.
seeing, especially young men,
Yeah.
throw their young years away,
Yeah.
just going through the motions because they can't find their
Correct.
passion.
Yeah.
So
And they can't get past. Yeah.
that's a diversion. But
Yeah. No. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so the next play was I wanted to do something that was good
Yeah.
and meaningful and
Yep.
would make a permanent difference in people's lives. And it was, at the time, I was really connected to the nutrition and fitness industry. And so I started a company that that was entirely based on helping people that were kind of on that edge. It wasn't a fitness place in the way you would normally think about it. We had a nutritionist, a diabetic counselor. We were plugged into the medical community. We were literally in a medical space,
Yeah.
and we were working with primary care physicians as our
Yep.
major source of referral.
Yeah.
And it was great. We actually were able to engage in people's lives, make big differences, see big changes in lives,
Yeah.
and it was fulfilling to that extent.
Yeah.
However, for me, it was I remember my partner saying at the time, it's like pushing in a thumbtack with a sledgehammer. It was like
Yeah.
there was way too much horsepower at the table
Yeah.
to be consumed with just one location.
Yeah.
And we opened it right as the economy was about to crash.
Yeah.
And it was business was doing fine, but it was going to take us a really long time to
Yeah.
get to scale and to
Yeah.
be able to do this across the country in multiple locations.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the I just
Yeah.
didn't have the patience to really
Yeah.
wait for that.
Yeah.
So one of my clients,
Yep.
one of the patients that had come to the organization, I got to be friends with, and he had a small Century 21 franchise.
Yep.
And I started talking to him up because I've always been involved in real estate. Every one of these conversations, there was a real estate component, whether it was
Yep.
leases or government contracts with large municipalities or whatever it was. There was always a real estate component. And so I was talking to him about it, and I had done some flips and buying a property, fixing it up, and selling it. And I asked him, "Hey, would you like to work together on flips?" And he says to me, "This is in 2010."
Yeah.
This is a really smart guy, by the way,
Yeah.
who I still love and admire
Yeah.
and consider a mentor.
Uh-huh.
But he couldn't have been more wrong about the answer he was going to give me, but it worked out okay.
Yeah.
He says, "It's a really bad time to do flips right now." It was literally probably the best time ever to do flips. But
the market was crashed, right?
the market had absolutely bottomed out, but nobody knew that,
Yeah.
in fairness to him.
Yeah.
And he says, "It's not a good time to do flips, but I've been wanting to get this little special project of mine off the ground in real estate for 20 years, and I just don't have the horsepower to do it. But you do. If you could come in, you could take this thing over, and you could make it all my real estate dreams come true by getting this thing off the ground."
Yep.
And so I said, "What the heck? I really like this guy. He's like this grandfatherly figure. I call him the general to this day because he reminds me of a general. He was in the military, and he just conducts himself in a way that you instantly respect."
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, "For you, sir? Yes. Let's go do it." So I come into the organization, and I start working on his project.
Yep. Century 21, right? Northwest.
It's Century 21 Northwest,
Yep.
And I'm just he's paying me a little salary. Didn't mean anything to me at the time, but he's paying me a little salary, and I'm helping him get this project going. And we're 6 months into it, and he walks into my office one day, and he literally throws his keys across the desk, and he says, "I'm in your way." I was like, "What?"
How big was the organization at the time?
It was relatively small. I mean, it was at the bottom of the market. So we had a few agents, maybe a couple dozen, and a couple hundred property management agreements. And that was really it.
Yeah.
We were leveraged. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a gift or a curse.
Yeah, I was
he
going to
giving
say,
me, right?
throwing the keys your way.
Yeah. So we work a deal for me to buy the company and for him to retire.
Wow.
And it was, like I said, I consider him a very good friend to this day. And it was tremendous for him to be able to move into retirement, and it's been really great for me and the organization to you know, be able to do that. And it's how we got
Just
to where we're
hit
at.
the horsepower, and that was it.
That was it. I never looked back. And you know, a lot of people were looking at me at the time, and they're like, "Let me get this straight. The market has literally just crashed, and you're going into real estate." And I was like, yes. And it's true. You know, the greatest times of despair in any industry are the greatest times of opportunity. And so, you know, I was looking at his little tiny property management company, and I'm like, let me get this straight. Right now, we can buy houses for $50,000 and rent them the next day for $1,000. How many of these things can we get? And I was calling my friends from Beverly Hills, and I was like telling them, and they're like, what if the price drops more? I'm like, idiot. It doesn't matter if the price drops more.
You're still renting.
If the price drops more, we'll buy more. This is fantastic. And we did. We bought hundreds of them. It was really great.
So
and
200 went to like 400 real
800.
quick. 800.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was really wild. And you know, we bought and sold portfolios at that time, and we did flips on scale at that time. So we really just kind of started getting into everything you can think of about. But in the meantime, I'm learning all about residential real estate and a little bit more about the commercial brokerage side of real estate. And
that was what, like 12 years ago? 15 years ago?
About 15 years ago. Yeah.
And now it's just full pedal on the metal in the commercial and residential, right? It's like you're here, you're settled in, scaling up. Now we've sort of perfected the model on how we train people and how we, you know, recruit and hire people. And we learned a long, long time ago that we don't care at all about your level of production. That'll come. There's a certain very, very small sliver of people that are really good at this. And it doesn't matter how much you train them or how much you teach them. There's just this intuitive, like you're born with it thing that a very small percentage of people have. And those people are going to be good at it. But you don't know if those people that are good about it are going to be good people. And so my only thing that I teach around here with our recruiters is that I don't care if they sell one house or 100 houses. I don't care if they sell 10 buildings or, you know, 50 buildings in a year. All I care about is, do they share our values? And by that, you know, I mean, are they willing to value that relationship above themselves? Are they willing to put the needs of that client, regardless of what the commission is, regardless of what the issues surrounding the transaction are they willing to put the needs of that client above their own? And if they will, then we'll work with them and we'll maximize them and we'll help them and coach them up and we'll make the most out of them. And so that's really what we've become, is just a tremendous training organization, but an organization that steeps everything it does in values. Well, I think that's interesting because in like a brokerage model, you kind of flipped it on its head, because most of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, but brokerages are contractors that kind of just show up, they pay their dues or their fees or whatever, right? But they're still kind of on their own brand. And what I'm hearing though is you kind of not flipped it on its head entirely, but you did, in that you gave agents a place to not just call home, but also to be connected in a company culture that's built on serving and growing. That's interesting because that's not the model.
And once again, I didn't come up with that idea. I learned from one of my mentors earlier. I just mentioned. My mentor in Beverly Hills didn't see his business the way everybody else saw it. He saw it the way he needed to see it to be profitable, to be successful. And so I came into this organization and I saw it the same. I looked at it the same way. I want what we do to matter. I want to be a good steward of the people that work here and the clients that we serve. And I'm inflexible, totally inflexible to anything but that. And so, yes, if you went around to 100 brokerages today and you told them my model, they'd laugh in your face. They'd say, you can't make any money doing that. They'd say, that's not how it's done today. And, you know, all I can say to that is that it's worked. And at the end of the day, I not only go home satisfied with the business results, but more importantly, I go home satisfied that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting when you say going home. So much focus is always on the business or the leader or the principles of the company, things like that. But you've been owning businesses, running businesses long enough, like the entire personal side of, okay, I'm still leading my family. I'm still right. And it's like all the incredible situations you're walking through there, like most recently, right, with Seth, right?
Sure.
It's like amidst all the things on the company end, I think leaders, business owners have to really, I don't like to use that word work balance, right? Because it's like you're all in everywhere, right?
Yep.
But it's how do you prioritize it? How do you enjoy and be present
Yes.
for those moments?
Well, unfortunately for me, you learn the absolute hard way, right? That's
Yeah.
how I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Now I watch
Yeah.
you, you're intentional. You were born that way and
Yeah.
you've done such an amazing job with your kids. I grew up on a dairy farm
Yeah.
and I modeled my dad and my grandfather who worked until the work was done.
Yeah.
And on a dairy farm, the work's never done.
Yeah.
So they never stopped working.
Yeah.
And, you know, one small difference on the dairy farm that I didn't intuitively pick up on is that your kids get to come with you. So that's a
Yeah.
difference maker. Even though you're working,
Yeah.
you can still engage with your family. I didn't
Yeah.
understand that. I wasn't working
Yeah.
in the dairy. And I just knew that my primary goal, I believed, was in providing for them.
Yeah.
And so the heart wasn't in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's just the matter of going there was in the
Yeah.
wrong place. And so how did I ever allow myself to be in a place where 5 nights a week I was in another state, jumping on airplanes,
Yeah.
traveling across the country, doing all kinds of crazy things.
Mm.
And all the while convincing myself that I was doing it for them. I hated it. I was
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah.
It was really hard. It was
Yeah.
really exhausting. And come to find out, you know, I was depriving them too. Now,
Yeah.
I have an incredible wife and
She's a saint.
she's a saint. And I was born, I was blessed with 3 of the most fascinating, wonderful people for children that you could possibly ever imagine. And I take no pride in the way they turned out because even though I believe in a system, even though I believe in a group of rules and how you rear young children and bring
Yeah.
them up, I still think that the kids get a say,
Yeah.
right, in what they become.
Yeah.
And I've just been blessed that they all became incredible people. Now, I got myself into a position intentionally where at one point I said, I will never miss another event. I will not miss a daddy-daughter dance.
Yep.
I will not miss a parent-teacher conference. I will not miss a sporting event.
Yeah.
Hard stop. It will not happen. I don't care what the work circumstances are. And I set my kids down and I told them, nothing matters more to me than you.
Yeah.
And therefore that's the case.
Mm.
And so that's the other part of being an entrepreneur is I work nonstop.
Yeah.
I still do. I work 7 days a week, but I can completely control
Yeah.
the hours that I work. You know, I
Yeah.
can completely, you know, stop things and make
Yep.
time for those things that truly,
Yeah.
truly matter in life,
Yeah.
which is your family.
Yeah.
And so, with the Seth thing, both of the kids, we just wanted all 3 kids to
Yeah.
be in sports.
Yeah.
And we stumbled on literally just by knowing, just happenstance, into swimming. And we
Yeah.
were attracted to it because it was outside. It was like lots of activity.
Yep.
It was great exercise. And there was a community feel to it.
Yeah.
My niece was coaching. And so we just put all 3 kids at the exact same time into swimming.
Yeah.
The 2 older ones were accomplished swimmers. They were good athletes, but they were high school,
Yeah.
good quality,
Yeah.
Nothing, no fault of theirs. They were very, very good.
Yeah.
But the very first time that we put Seth into a swimming pool, it was evident that there was something different there.
Yeah.
Much the same way that some parents talk about, they put their child in front of a piano and he could just play a symphony.
Yeah.
Seth was like that.
Yeah.
He was just special in the water. And so a lot of our time became revolved around, helping Seth figure out what that was going to look like for him. And you know, the greatest thing about that is that Seth didn't really want to be a swimmer, right?
Really?
Yeah, he is.
That's right.
I think he's. I
Yep.
think this year he, when he finished his high school senior season,
Yeah.
he was the fastest high school swimmer in the United States of America.
Wow.
And he took a different path. He somewhere around his freshman year
Yeah.
decided that he didn't want to do club sports anymore,
Yep.
and he would only swim for his high school coaches. And that is usually like a death sentence for any athlete in any level.
Oh yeah.
You're going to now pigeonhole yourself just because of how competitive it is.
Well, everything is year round. Like you have to
Yeah.
have your specialty. It's year round. Like when I was in it, I was doing baseball and volleyball and other things, right?
Yeah,
And it was just like rotating.
which is better.
Well,
and,
I don't. Yeah.
you know,
I
and
was never that great of an athlete.
No, that is
post high
absolutely
school.
false. You are seriously one of the best all around
sneaky.
athletes that I've ever been around. And if you had some of the half of the opportunity that these kids have now, it's just amazing. Where you wouldn't be sitting here with me, but anyway, you know, Seth, he didn't want to take that path.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard as a dad.
Yeah.
You know something that he doesn't know, right? A lot of times parents are like, they see a kid and the kid's good at whatever sport they're as a gymnast, whatever. And they're like, if he tries hard, he could make it to the Olympics. He could make it to the pros. He could do whatever. In my situation, it was true.
Yeah.
Like literally this kid was the kind of kid that should be in the Olympics someday.
Yeah.
And it was obvious to everyone that was around him. And it didn't, and Seth knew, but it didn't matter to him because that's not what he wanted to do with his life. So what's that tug and pull that you have as a parent with a kid that's like that? Like on the one hand, you're like, you've been gifted. How do I encourage you to honor that gift? Because you're never given a gift by accident, right?
Yep.
And at the same time, how do I let you be what you want to be?
Yeah.
And so he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, my wife is always intuitive on what he really needed. And we just kept presenting the option. It's like teaching kids how to eat.
Yeah.
If you put the vegetables in front of them and you say, you're going to sit there until you eat your green beans, they're not ever going to eat those green beans and they're going to be scarred for the rest of their life. That's the one food that they won't ever eat. Right. And so that was kind of how we had to manage Seth with his athletics, was to continue to put him in front of opportunity and just encourage him to make whatever he can make out of it. Now, we were also blessed that some other guys, the high school coaches that he swam for, came alongside him and fully understood him and just wanted what was best for him and helped him turn that switch on to, I really want this. So, suddenly, I'll tell you a quick story about how that went.
Yeah.
Seth, his junior year, he didn't want to go on and swim in college. And so every time we go to a swim meet, they would say, oh, where's he going to swim in college? And we're like, he's not going to swim in college.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile, he's getting first. And
he's destroying people. And so we go to the state championship meet. He has a breakout meet, and he really does well. And he wins the state in both of his events and sets a state record in the relays. And he's getting all kinds of press, and people are all over him. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm resigned that he's not going to go on, that he's just going to do this in high school. And I'm just okay with him being him. But the next day, we sit down for lunch. I took him to play golf with two of his buddies, and we're just going to have a quick round of golf. And I'm sitting there, and he looks over at me, and he goes, Dad, I think I want to take some trips. I go, you want to take some trips? Where are we going? He goes, no, I mean to see some schools. I was like, are you saying that you want to swim in college?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah. I'm like, where the heck did this come from?
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Seth, you know how it works. In swimming, it's a little different. It's a very competitive, and there's not a lot of budgets for it. So I'm like, what we'll do is tomorrow we'll talk about some schools that you might be interested in, and then we'll reach out to those coaches and see if there's a place for you on the team.
Yeah.
And he's like, great. And we get up from the meal, and we're on our way to the first tee box, and his phone tings, and it's the head coach of Alabama, and then ASU, and then Navy, and then Duke, and then North Carolina, and then Florida, and then every hole, it was a new coach. That
It's almost
was
like they heard him, right?
Well, what happened was we found out later his times posted from the day before.
Oh.
In high school, the only time that posts is your state championship.
Yeah.
They don't count those times otherwise. And so his times posted, and all of the coaches saw it, and they just started
flooding.
reaching out, going nuclear.
Wow.
And so we get invited to go to Alabama. I'm a huge football guy.
Yeah.
And he wants to take the trip, and we go to Alabama, and they are putting on the show, man.
Had you been there before?
I'd never been there, but I loved what
Yeah.
Saban had done with the football program.
Yeah.
I just loved everything about it. And I get there, and it's beyond my wildest dreams. It's utopia. I mean, it's literally, they've spent all of the money at this place, and all of the facilities are over the top. They've got the swim team has massage therapists and nutritionists that follow you around, and they've got tutors that help you, and they're all in first class facilities, and their weight room is better than any NFL locker room weight room that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It's just for the swim team.
Yeah.
This is for the swim team. And they take us out in the field because they know I like football, and they take us up to Saban's office, and they're really putting on the show. And so I'm like, where do we sign?
You're all in.
I'm all in. I'm buying the sweatshirts.
You got your Buc-ee's brisket.
Yeah. I am all 100% in. And once again, I learned Seth was not in.
Yeah.
So the next, that night, Seth goes to a game with the basketball team. And the next morning was a hustle bustle to get out of there, and we leave. And he decided that he didn't want to go, and they made him a deal that is unheard of in swimming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how could you? What is going on in your head? And Seth is a really quiet guy. He's an understated guy, and it's easy as a parent to cast your own weaknesses and your own character flaws over the top of somebody who's quiet.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, one of the most profound things I learned that Seth taught me. He decides that he wants to go to ASU. ASU won the national championship in swimming. And his coaches like their coach, and it's local, right? And so Bob Bowman brings him out and interviews him. Bob Bowman's Michael Phelps' coach. And he brings him out and he interviews him. And I'm like, okay, but the facilities are like squeaky, rusty doors, and it's like no indoor facilities, and the weight room's like, Eye of the Tiger, the Rocky movie, and you're just like, Bob's a nice guy, and he's super accomplished, and it's an honor being in the room with Michael, the greatest swimmer ever, coach, and he's saying nice things about your son, but I'm like, give me a break. Like, why would you, it reminded me of the, I think it was a Jack in the Box commercial where it was like the good hamburger and the bad hamburger B. Like, who would ever choose hamburger B? So Seth chooses ASU.
Yeah.
And I get that they just won a national championship and they have the best swimmers on planet Earth. But I'm like, is he taking the shortcut in life here?
Yeah.
And so long story short, I asked him about that. Seth, are you chickening out because you're afraid to go away from home? Are you intimidated by being in a facility that's like that, where they want to build a program around you, where you can't just be invisible amongst all of the other talent? And he says, you couldn't be further from the truth. He said, ASU is the most overwhelmingly, I am out of my league with those guys. He said the pressure and the anxiety just thinking about going and swimming with people that are on that level, it's the biggest challenge I think I would have ever faced. And I said, so why in the heck would you want to do that? And he goes, because I want to see how good I can get.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Because he knew he'd probably dominate pretty well at Alabama, right? Like he'd hold his own over there and all that.
High school were good enough to make him one of the top swimmers in the school.
Like he wanted that challenge.
In ASU, he's swimming with 6 or 7 Olympians, and he's just going to be another face in the pan unless they can really do something with him. And that's his point. He's like, I want to see what I can do.
I wonder where he gets that from, that drive. Huh?
I don't know. Probably his mom. Probably his Uncle Ryan.
No. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you think you know.
Yeah.
You think you know.
Yeah.
And it's great when you learn a lesson from your kids.
Yeah.
And that was a profound lesson I learned from him.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, man, I know you're super busy. I love our chats. I've enjoyed them all. I've benefited so greatly from all the wisdom and all that. And I just, it's nice to be able to share it here and to dig in here. And business and personal life is always intertwined. And so you always shared is you can't just be business and then check out and go. So it's all intertwined. Your character is your character through and through, business and personal. I think it's what people need to hear in this.
I hate that. I hate that expression that's common in the American vernacular, that business is business.
Yeah.
Keep business separate from personal.
Yeah.
It's a cop out.
Yeah.
And what I see it played out more often than anything is that it's an excuse to not have integrity.
Yeah.
It's like I can like you, I can be kind to you as a personal level, but on the business level, I can take advantage of you and get one up on you, right?
Yep.
It's incorrect.
Yeah.
There is no deal in business that matters more than the relationship of the people that you're doing it with.
I love it. Well, looks like we're out of herbal tea. By the way, I got to ask, why herbal tea? That's what you chose.
Because
it's delightful, don't get me wrong.
Because I don't do caffeine. I already talked fast enough.
Okay.
I'm off the caffeine. I'm never going back. It's the greatest thing I ever did for myself.
Yes.
I waited until I was 30 to drink coffee, and then once I drank the juice, I was hooked on it until last year. And so I gave up caffeine, and now I'm staying with the herbal.
Well, I like it. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
I'd love to be here.